Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea, and this is my quick review of the brand new MCU Marvel film, Captain Marvel. Now, just so you know at the outset here, I'm going to keep the details of the movie to a very bare minimum because I want to make sure I don't give anything significant away that isn't in just the basic setup of the movie, and I'm going to focus more on my reactions. But to get the ball rolling, when Captain Marvel begins, we meet Brie Larson's character on the Kree homeworld of Halal or Halal or Hollow or something like that. At any rate, she is a part of the Kree special forces known as Star Force. Yeah, I'm not making that up. Star Force is the name of their intergalactic police squad, I guess. And by the way, at this point in the film, her name is not Carol Danvers. It's Veers or Veers or Varys, or again, some name like that. And her closest friend and mentor and her commanding officer in the Kree Star Force is played by Jude Law. And I actually really quite like Jude Law in this movie, as I like him in just about everything. Now, they get given a mission. You see, the Kree at this point are on a quest to stop the spread of the Skrull Empire, who basically they're shapeshifters who infiltrate planets and then take over planets from within, and the Kree are trying to stop them. When the movie starts, we see Jude Law leading his Star Force. One of the members, of course, is Veers or Varys or Varys or whatever. It's Carol Danvers. And they're going off to try to stop an insurgency of Skrull on one particular planet. Now, a few mishaps happen, and Carol Danvers winds up back on Earth. Now, it's also important to note, as is kind of given away in the trailers, that at this point in the film, Carol Danvers doesn't really have any memory of her past. She doesn't know who she is. She only knows of her existence from the moment she kind of became a citizen of the Kree homeworld. And again, as we saw in the trailers, in the pursuit of some Skrulls on Earth, she meets Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson. She runs into Agent Coulson, played by Clark Gregg, and that's really where the story of our movie and the meat of it really starts to begin. Now, before I get into some specific negatives and positives, let me say this. Captain Marvel is, at the end of the day, an important film in the progression of the MCU. This is a movie that actually connects a lot of dots in the MCU that we've had in the previous 20 plus films, and you'd actually be surprised how many of the dots they actually start to put together here. So it's an important film in the MCU. It starts kind of slow though. Like, I'm going to say the first half of the movie is a decent movie. The second half of the movie is really quite good, that ends us off with Captain Marvel being a solid, good, entertaining film that never quite breaches that plane of becoming a great movie. That's not to say there aren't some great things in the movie. Heavens, there are several great moments of this movie, absolutely. Again, though, overall, when you take the whole package together, it's a good, solid Marvel film that I wouldn't necessarily put in the top 5, top 6, maybe not even the top 7 or 8 of the best MCU movies to date. Solid film. I wouldn't call it a great film, though. On the positive side of Captain Marvel, I say this. It's actually one of the better stories for any of the Marvel films up to date. I might actually put it in the top 3 or 4 stories as far as the MCU goes. They do a really nice job navigating us. There's enough layers to the overall narrative that includes things that are unfolding in front of us, but also things that tap into the past. There's a little bit of jumping back and forth through time to tell their overall narrative with enough little turns and twists along the way that keeps you as an audience member pretty enthralled in the story itself. And that's an important factor for sure. So one of the definite positives here is a very solid story. Academy Award winner Brie Larson does, as you would expect, a very solid job in the lead role. And what I really appreciated about what she brought to the role, which some people misinterpreted in the trailers, and was very easy to misinterpret in the trailers, was the subtlety she brought to it. We are starting with the character who has no memory of her past and doesn't even really know who she is. And she starts the character there with subtlety. And what I found was there are some scenes in this movie where some directors, some lesser directors, would have had their character go, wah! Where with the Brie Larson character, because it's played so well and so subtly, she's just able to go, and it has the same full impact and effect. And as she starts to unravel her past and understand who she is, again, all stuff we've seen in the trailers, but as she starts to go through that progression and learning about who she is and rediscovering herself, more and more of that personality starts to come out as it unfolds, and it was handled very well. And what is really great about Samuel L. Jackson's performance as Nick Fury is, number one, he's Nick Fury and he plays his character great. But what I was most impressed by it was he gave us a younger version of Nick Fury. Nick Fury mannerisms that weren't quite fully fledged out mannerisms that we're accustomed to seeing in the modern Avengers films. You see, because they very easily could have just gone, just be Nick Fury up to 10, you know? But they didn't. They took the Nick Fury isms, if you will, and backed it off a little bit to have it when he was a little bit less jaded, not quite as seasoned, hasn't seen as much stuff yet, and they gave him that same identifiable personality, just not quite all the way that we're used to seeing yet, and he played it perfectly, and it's always cool seeing Sam Jackson on screen. If you've been paying attention to social media, you saw that when the social media embargo lifted for Captain Marvel, a lot of people were mentioning two things. That a couple of the big standouts were number one, Goose the Cat, and number two, Ben Mendelsohn as a Skrull general. All I'm going to say at this point is all of those accolades were completely deserved. The cat is definitely a standout in the film, and Ben Mendelsohn is a total surprise. And I don't know why we're surprised. Ben Mendelsohn's incredible. Why are we surprised that he was great in this movie? Well, whatever. He's great in this movie. When it comes to the action, in the action scenes that are good, and not all of them are good, and I'll get to that in just a minute, but in the action scenes that are good, you had people like almost jumping out of their seats. It's really well choreographed, a real great display of power. They give you a sense of the scope of Captain Marvel's power. They give you kind of a nice underlying explanation of how she got that power. And then when she really unleashes it, it becomes really fun to watch. Unfortunately, not all the action scenes were done that well, but the ones that are totally crushed it. Maybe the most relevant and significant post-credit scene that the MCU has ever put in any of their movies. Because a lot of times the post-credit scenes are cute and everything, but they're really not relevant to anything that's going on. The post-credit scenes, and there are two, but the first post-credit scene in particular, I'm not going to give anything away, probably the most important and the most relevant that we've ever had in an MCU movie. Do not leave your seat when the credits start to roll. And by the way, the second post-credit scene at the very end of the credits is also one you're going to want to stick around for. On the negative side of things, I mentioned earlier that this is a movie that picks up as it goes, but in the very first half of the movie, like not just the first act, I would say the entire first half of the movie is very slow going. Now, slow pace is fine as long as you got a cadence to it. Quite frankly, I felt at times during the first hour of the film that it just dragged. And there were some action scenes in the first half of the movie. And remember I was saying not all the action scenes are great? There were some action scenes in the first half of this movie that I really felt contrived. And I felt like, come on, am I supposed to buy in? Am I supposed to find this exciting? Really? They're going to this planet, but this planet feels very, very small. I don't want to go into details. You'll see what I'm talking about when you see the movie. And it just felt underwhelming. Even though they were doing some important work of laying a lot of narrative groundwork for what was going to have payoff later, and that's absolutely true, and they accomplished that, I just feel that you could have found a more engaging, more enticing, and frankly more entertaining way to do it. And you know, a lot of people have been asking, hey, how big of a role do you think Lee Pace, Ronan the Accuser, is going to play in this movie? Honestly, quite frankly, the character didn't even need to be there. Like, it was just, look, everybody, it's Ronan the Accuser. He played very, very small part that any kind of Kree character could have played the part. It's very small. It's very minimal. So at the end of the day, for me, Captain Marvel is a good movie. It's a good movie. I kind of put it on the same scale for me as Venom. A good movie with issues, but at the end of the day, entertaining and worth your time. It's certainly an important film in the history of the MCU. Again, connects a lot of dots and opens a lot of doors as we head into Endgame with a very significant post-credit scene that you must stick around for. But yeah, there are some great moments. There are some great moments in this movie. Now, look, I know half of you out there are wanting me to say that it's the worst thing ever, and half of you are wanting me to say it's the best thing ever, and I'm sorry to disappoint everybody, but I can't really say either. Good movie, solid, fun. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. Again, just not one of the best. But the question is, once you guys have a chance to see this movie, jump down in the comments section and let me know about your thoughts. Did you recognize some strengths of the film that I missed? Did you recognize some weaknesses of the film that I missed? Jump down in the comment section below and leave me your thoughts. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks for coming here and joining me. Guys, since you're here right now, why don't you take a second, click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel, keeping you up to date on all the shows that we do around here. My name is John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.